What is up, everyone? Welcome back.
Are you gonna do it like a robot?
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Spooky Screen channel. Firing up your coding stations. We'll be discussing M3GAN tonight.
Long and short, should you watch this film or should you skip it? You will find out tonight. Most of us agree that you should watch it. One of us is a robot, if that makes sense.
Intent on killing the conversation.
Intent on killing the spirit of this movie and the fun. With me tonight are my hosts for discussion. We have Nick, David, Steven, and myself. My name is Noah. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. She's more than just a toy. She's part of the family. M3GAN is a marvel of artificial intelligence, a lifelike doll programmed to be a child's greatest companion and a parent's greatest ally. Designed by the brilliant toy company roboticist Gemma, M3GAN can listen and watch and learn as she becomes friend and teacher, playmate and protector for the child she is bonded to. When Jenna suddenly becomes the caretaker of her orphaned 8-year-old niece, Katie, Gemma's unsure and unprepared to be a parent. Under intense pressure at work, Gemma decides to pair her M3GAN prototype with Katie in an attempt to resolve both problems. A decision that will have unimaginable consequences. Dun dun dun. So, should you watch M3GAN or should you skip it? Steven, should you watch M3GAN or should you skip it?
You should watch M3GAN. And the reason why you should give this film a shot is because, yes, while it's another killer doll horror movie, I think that the movie itself, typical of James Wan films, knows exactly what it is. And it plays the tone perfectly and has a great balance of meaningful um, ideas and themes while also blending in some humor and also a little bit of horror as well. This is not too scary of a film. It is PG-13 after all, and I do think that it works on those varying levels. There's not too much to expect here, but I think in terms of what I was looking for when I saw the trailers, I saw the viral marketing, I saw the M3GAN dolls dancing in one of those football games at a halftime show very creepily. M3GAN works because it explores, in terms of its more emotional core, it works because it works because it explores the notion of childhood grief, loss, parental loss, and coping mechanisms, and then also our relationship with technology and how it's become so much easier to rely on technology to substitute a lot of the labor and love that goes into parenting kids and being mentors to them, but how at the end of the day it might not be sufficient enough for their proper emotional development. And I think that message resonated with me. So M3GAN was, it was moving, it was humorous, it was terrifying in some instances. I think it had everything really, and I thought it really did work for me. So it's a solid watch.
Yep. So you expect a killer robot doll movie, you get a killer robot doll movie.
Exactly.
All right. So I'm going to move on to another person that I think says you should watch it, Steven. I mean
So
Steve-
in terms of whether you should watch this movie, I think you should watch it.
all three answers will be Steven. So Nick, why? I'm gonna spoil it. Nick says that you should watch this movie. Nick, why should people watch this movie?
I feel I heard a lot more opinion about how everyone was like, "Oh, it's just going to be a Chucky ripoff movie." But then when you watch it, this movie has a lot of excuse me. This movie has a lot of heart. It has a story to tell. It's not just some mindless slasher movie where you just turn your brain off and watch a doll go on a killing spree, because that doesn't happen until a good chunk into the movie. There's a very deep emotional story about this little girl who lost her parents and is trying to cope. Just like how Steven mentioned, there's the story just with coping and his reliance on technology, and it really gives the lesson on how you can't let something like giving your children iPads and YouTube and TV, they can't raise your children. Technology can't raise your children. And there's a good lesson to be learned there about it. And then it's at the very end that they're like, all right, now we know you came to see a dog go on a killing spree, so now we're going to give you a dog going on a killing spree. But that's
Mhm.
well after they've already wrapped up a story about the little girl, and she finds her way to be able to get off of Megan and not cope anymore.
Yeah, so what I hear from you is that the movie touched you in your special place.
This is my no square.
No, I didn't mean it like that, Steven. Don't think dirty. I meant in his heart. Touched him in his heart. And he wasn't
Yeah,
expecting that from a killer doll
I
movie.
feel like this movie really advertised itself as some kind of Chucky ripoff, where it was just going to be about a killer dog going on a killing spree. But that's only about like like not even a third about what the movie is, because like a good chunk of the movie is about its story, and then finally you just get rewarded
Yeah,
Yeah.
with a killing spree at the end for the
I
sake of it.
I agree with you, Nick. I think that maybe I was too overt in like, oh, this met my expectations. I do think I didn't see that grief element, coming into
Mhm.
play, and I think that
Yeah.
it really did work. It really did hit
You did mention that
the
too.
heart string. So
You mentioned that. Nick wasn't
yeah,
listening, so
yeah, I was
I'm just
right
kidding. I'm
all
just
this
kidding,
time.
Nick.
I'm
I'm
not
Suck,
just kidding.
disagreeing with
suck
you.
on it.
I'm just
I will go now because I want to leave the worst for last. I'm just kidding, David. The poo poo of the partier will be last. I am saying that you should watch this movie, and I agree with my other hosts. I agree exactly with their points. So, but I'm going to focus on something else. I'm going to focus on the villain of the story, where Chucky and Megan differ greatly. Is that Megan has a tremendously big personality, right? Whereas Chucky, yes, he has a personality, but most of the movie, at least half of the movie, he spends it pretending to be a doll. Whereas Megan, she really cares for this little girl. Like she almost becomes this she becomes the parent that she is programmed to be, and it makes for a very captivating villain. And I think that's where James Wan really excels. He made a tumor twin in Malignant. He made me cry for a tumor twin. And the same goes for Megan. Like yes, she's a killer doll, but she had feelings, you know? And it really elevated the story for me. It is a straightforward killer doll movie, but like everyone said, it has a beautiful balance of humor and horror. Um, and there is the meaningful themes of what it is to be a parent and that responsibility and being a new parent that really hit me hard in the gut. So I really like that about the movie. Yes, you're going to get a killer doll movie, but you're also going to get a lot of bonus things. And that's why I'm saying you should watch. And it has a killer dance scene. And David will never be able to convince me otherwise. Okay, David,
All
why
right,
are you saying skip this
all
movie?
right. I'm not here to convince the three of you guys, and
Just the viewers, David. Don't
just
worry
the
about
viewers.
us.
I will say that the movie I got was not what I was expecting.
What were you expecting, David? Quickly.
I was expecting something a little bit smaller. And in all honesty, you think about the Conjuring movies that we've talked about. They're smaller. They're a little bit more intimate. And I think when you stick with a small group of people, you can do so much more with it. And ultimately, all of the extra work characters just became fodder, just became doll murder fodder. And if it was just, maybe a little bit more of a slow burn, I know it's PG-13. I don't know. I guess I was just looking for more of a horror movie. I was in the
Mm-hmm.
mood for a horror movie, and I wish they dialed in a little bit more of like watching Megan crack. I wish we got to spend more time in that family unit. And then you guys are bringing up a lot of like dealing with grief and like I don't know. I thought Gemma's big revelation like it just seemed kind of like half-hearted. I understood all the messages, and as a parent, I could read them loud and clear and everything. It just I don't know. I don't know maybe if James Wan was swinging too big or maybe watered it down a little bit for the rating. I don't know. It just didn't click for me.
I think you had a similar feeling for Malignant too.
Well,
I
Malignant
think you
was like
expected something else, and you like. I think you're
right.
always trying. You always refer back to the Conjuring
Well, no.
franchises.
So for Malignant, I feel like James Wan was like experimenting, and to me that was like shocking to me.
But I think
Well, let me finish
David,
my
yeah.
let me finish my thought. And going back to Malignant, I can look back at that movie and I really enjoy that movie now, and I really enjoy kind of the lengths that James Wan explored. But for Megan, I don't know. I just to me it was a bit of a miss.
It's interesting because I hear it sounds a lot like you didn't get what you were expecting from. That seems like the major um, knock that you're giving it. Because
Yeah,
David,
no.
I think we might be a little confused because
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel like the movie was swinging too big or was too big. I thought the cast of characters was relatively small, and I'm confused of where you're coming with that. But I can see your point of maybe it wasn't what you were expecting. I think you maybe wanted something more horror-y.
But
Well, the extra coworkers, the boss's assistant, the boss even.
But I think that all fits in with this idea that it's a toy company and this is like an upgraded version. Like it all fits in with what the story's conceited. This is a toy for kids and it's supposed to replace screen time, but it like has this sort of malicious intent in terms of like acting as a crutch for parents, you know? I think it all
I get that, but I feel like it still could have delivered the same message without all of those scenes. I don't think they were pivotal to the message.
well, I
In
think
my
yeah.
sorry,
I disagree, but anyways,
in
yeah.
my opinion, David, I think if they didn't have those scenes, Megan's existence wouldn't make sense because then you would just have to say that this girl Gemma just had Megan on her for some reason. Like they have to justify Megan's existence to the audience. Like they have to say, oh, she has all this materials because she works for this really expensive toy company that trusts her to design these toys that make them a lot of money. And that's why they give her all this creativity and free will. And yes, the boss is kind of a hard ass, but he knows that she gets them the big money. To me, it's all like plot necessity. I know it might not be the most exciting thing to see someone work on a robot and design a toy for a girl, but I think it is necessary. I think without those, the audiences would poke a lot of plot holes in. And same goes for, even the boss's assistant. I think they probably want to make a sequel. So that's why he's stealing the trade secrets. I didn't stay for the after credit scene, but I would bet $1 that there was an after credit scene where they're going to design, the new company is going to design a new Megan.
Hmm.
So to me, it all fits. So it's hard for me to truly understand where you're coming from, but I respect your opinion. I don't necessarily follow it.
I thank you for that. And I guess because we talked about, or we keep bringing up like the dark humor of the movie, and there's like, I don't know,
And
maybe
maybe
it
you
just
don't like
I
maybe
like horror comedies.
I
I
just
don't.
want you to know, David, I don't respect your opinion.
That's fine,
I'm
Stephen.
kidding.
Oh my god. Nick, I
Thank
want
you
to hear
so
from you. Let's hear some David bashing. No, I'm just kidding. Let's hear your opinion.
much. I can understand why, because like I said, this movie subverts expectations. I could understand if David was going into this movie thinking one thing and getting a completely different experience, whether it be he wanted to be smaller because he wants it to be more introspective of the characters, and I feel like you have to understand that this is like just a Hollywood film, so they're not going to be too. It's not going to be too deep, just in terms of character itself, because they're just trying to move a plot along. And I think you might be looking a little too deep into just wondering like what are this character's motivations and why exactly is Megan so obsessed, and what makes Gemma fall so short. Like you might be looking a little too deep, especially for a movie that's only an hour and a half.
And maybe David, maybe you just don't. Maybe just like the robot killer doll doesn't interest you, which is fine because that's really
Mm.
what the movie is packaging and selling to you is the killer doll. and maybe
Yeah.
you just maybe you prefer demons, or maybe you prefer the tumor twin, and that's completely fine. There's types of horror movie monsters that I don't really care for. Like I think certain horror movies need to go above and beyond to impress you if it's not your taste. Like zombie movies. I don't really care for zombie movies, but Train to Busan, that impressed me, and it went above and beyond to do that. And a killer doll movie might not impress you, and it needs to go above and beyond. That's fine.
To what you're saying, no, maybe it just didn't click for me.
Yeah, that's
And
what it sounds like to me. Because I think when you tried to talk about it, I heard a lot of I don't knows and maybes and things like that, and I think it sounded like a matter of taste, and that's completely fine.
Dave, do
yeah,
you think if it was rated R, like it was intended to be, you would enjoy this movie a little more? And I don't mean that in terms of violence or gore. I just think if it went rated R, it would be able to go maybe a little bit of the extra mile. Do you
Mhm.
think that bothers you?
Just a show of hands, who would have preferred this to be rated R? So
Uh,
no.
no.
All right. So 3 out of 4 though would prefer it to be rated R. I think. I think we. Well, I
You
don't know
know,
what Nick's feeling is, but to me, I just think when it comes to horror, when giving it a rated R, lets you pack a punch a little bit more. Especially for the audience that is knowing they're buying a horror.
also, could I just say this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Megan was accessing the internet to like update herself. Like she was researching death, like to be able to like creatively and accurately reflect a robot that has is gaining sentience through learning about the internet.
Yeah.
Like an R-rated film will help you accurately depict that, I
hmm
think.
Like it
yeah.
watches all those like dank memes, the
Yeah, or
downloads,
or
all
even like
these.
just just the darkest corners of the internet,
Maybe
right?
finds like the dark web.
Yeah, and just like, there's some dark stuff out there, and I think an
And
R-rated film would have better captured that sort of dynamic. So
and maybe that's what I wanted, Steven. Maybe you hit the nail on the head of what I couldn't describe. I wanted a little bit more
edge,
exploration.
more
Yeah,
edge.
maybe edge, and the edge would
Well,
have added to the exploration.
I've got great news for you, David. They
Is
are
there an
coming
R-rated?
out. They are coming out with an R-rated version of Megan. They
Just for
originally
you.
wrote the film to be R-rated, but they edited it in post to be more PG-13, just because they thought they would sell more tickets. I'm sure, but you will
Interesting.
be getting an R-rated version. So you let us know what you think.
There's an article here even that says Megan deserved to be rated R by Collider. And it said, perhaps if Megan were rated R, it would be afforded the privilege of being able to fully realize the lunatic possibilities baked into its premise. And I think that gets back to this internet idea. Like, this was a robot that was connected to the internet. It should have been able to go absolutely bananas on like the most creative kills. Like, it suddenly knows how to do kung fu.
3 of us are saying watch Megan, and one of us is saying skip, but pretty much all of us agree that it should have been rated R, and we hope to see the rated R version in the future, which is to come. This has been the Spooky Screen signing out. Signing out. Bye.